Hey everybody, it's Phil Eichinger. Thanks for tuning in to the channel today, and appreciate your comments down below, and let me know what you think. Today's topic, near and dear to my heart, anxiety and overcoming it. I'm going to give you 4 tips on overcoming anxiety, which have been really lifesavers for me. And after struggling with chronic anxiety and generalized anxiety disorder for the bulk of my life, over the last couple of years, I've begun to find relief, peace, calmness, and some serenity. And I'll tell you, you can't put a price on it. Before I get into the 4 tips, though, I want to just comment on 2 things. Number one, your brain can change. I don't want to get scientific on you. You certainly can look up neuroplasticity. It's science. I believe it. I don't ask anybody else ever to believe anything I believe. I only give you my experiences, and I talk from my personal life story. But I do fully believe now that your brain is not hardwired based on a stage when you were younger where it developed, and then it stayed that way, and you live that way the rest of your life with your brain set. If you had trauma or issues when you were young, it locked in, and that's how it's going to be. It's not how it's going to be. This thing it's a marvelous machine, and it can be rewired, and you can completely change your thought processes, your neurotransmitters, and how your circuits connect. It's amazing. So number one, I believe it, and I think that you need to believe that you can get better and your brain can get rewired, and it's not some hardwired piece of equipment that cannot evolve or change over time. The second thing is, with anxiety and to a lesser degree depression, you want to make sure that you're constantly staying in the present moment, because in the now, in the present moment, right, the Eckhart Tolle stuff I talk about all the time, it can't get you. It can't get you now. Right now, I'm here talking to you, safe, in my office, and I look around and I'm okay. And there's nothing that can get me right now that should make me anxious. The problem we have is that we look back and we look ahead. And that's where the anxiety, and to a lesser degree the depression, comes from, is the fact that we get stuck in our past. We begin looping, as we call it, before our brain begins to change. It plays the same tapes over and over again in our heads about all the mistakes that we've made. Have I succeeded in life? Is this all there is? Shouldn't I have accomplished more by this point in my life? And those lies that are played to you through your thoughts. And what we've talked about many times before on the previous videos is, what we've got to do is we have to look at when those thoughts pop in our mind and those loops and tapes begin to play, those negative thoughts. We have to remind ourselves that they're not real, right? That's our brain and our mind and our ego talking, and we have to not attach to them and let them bring us down. We kind of have to watch them like a cloud in the sky going by, where we can see that this thought is popping into our head, but it's not us, it's not real, and it's just a thought. And if we don't attach to it, the cloud will blow right through and the sun will come out again. So we're not stuck with it, right? We begin to almost, or I begin to almost look at some of these crazy thoughts that I get like a child misbehaving, where now I just kind of laugh it off and say, you're being silly. This is not real. So I try not to get caught up in it. Looking ahead, our anxiety comes from worrying about things. 99% of those things a year from now we won't even remember. But again, our brain has been programmed to worry about what could possibly go wrong in the future, and then loop to those things that could go wrong over and over again, or look back at the mistakes that we've made over the course of our lifetime. It's disastrous. It's a terrible way to live, but after repeating those patterns and attaching to those thoughts and giving that brain power, you get stuck there. And that, to me, is where a lot of my anxiety and secondary depression and secondary, what led to my addiction. So they're kind of the 2 things that I want to just talk to you about quickly. Is number 1, your brain can change, and number 2, if you can keep yourself in the present moment and remind yourself that they're just thoughts in terms of worrying about the future, and worrying about the past, you'll begin to recover, and your brain will begin to plot new roadways, and the old roadways will begin to break apart and disappear. Now, the 4 ways, how do you stay present? The first one for me is breathing and counting. This is the simplest one. I like to know the science of things. I thought that when Christian Johnson said to me, breathing and counting, I said, well, that's just too simple. But actually, without, again, getting scientific, the 2 parts of the primal brain, parasympathetic and sympathetic side, one's fight and flight and one's relaxed. They can't be both on the same time. And so you can look at sympathetic side of the brain and parasympathetic side of the brain if you want to do more scientific research on this. But the point being is, when you feel yourself getting anxious, if you will just stop and breathe 3 or 4 times, deep breaths, and count, 1 in, 1 out. People have different types of breathing, 4x2, 2x4, 4x4x4, whatever you find you're comfortable with. You can look at different videos or Google this kind of stuff. But breathing and counting literally shuts off the fight and flight reaction on the other side of the brain. So, you know, if you want to do a test of this, while you're breathing deeply and counting and focusing on your breath, try to think about something else or worry about something else. And what you realize is you can't do it. You can't do it. It can't do both at the same time. Like I said, it's the primal part of the brain. One has to be on, and when one's on, the other has to be off. And like I said, I don't want to get too deep on that, but I want to tell you the first of the 4 tips, obviously, is breathing and counting. The second one is anchor points. I call them anchor points. When you're at a stop in life, get present and think about where you're at, and try to bring yourself into the present moment, like I talked about before. Now, for me, that's things like standing in line. You know, when I'm in line at a grocery store, or I'm in line waiting to get my lunch, I tend to get anxious and impatient. So now, whenever I'm in line, it clicks in my brain to stop, relax, see where I am, and look around, and look at things, and look at the colors, and look at the walls, and get into the present moment where I'm at, so that I don't get anxious, and then my mind doesn't start wandering. My mind will go from wandering in line at a restaurant or a takeout place to, oh my gosh, did I leave my car unlocked? Where's my wallet? What am I going to do about this job proposal, or this project I've been working on? You know, how am I going to afford this trip or vacation? And my life is basically over and ruined. Standing in line. I mean, that's how after so many years of looping and taping, that's how my brain and my thought process works, and that's how it keeps control of me, and that's how it kept me pinned down in the anxiety. So I will use a line. I will use a traffic light now, where I will stare and see red, yellow, green. That's a blue car in front of me. And I will get present. When I'm in the shower now, I don't think about everything that I've done wrong the past 30 years or everything that could go wrong the next 30 years like I used to. I smell the soap. I feel the water hit me. I listen to the sound of it as it's hitting me, and I get again in the present moment. Because remember, when I'm in the present moment, anxiety can't get me. Depression, to a lesser part, can't get me. And my need as a byproduct for the addiction isn't necessary. Okay? I hope that makes sense to everybody, but that's point 2. Number 1, breathing and counting. Number two, anchor points. Number 3 is a little game I play called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what that is when I find myself drifting. Oh, and by the way, when it comes to anchor points, for the first couple of months, how did I get in the habit of doing it and not forget? I hung little index cards in my car, outside my shower, in my mirror when I shave, and in my pocket when I'm standing in line to get my money out. And all I had on the index card was the letter P, and that reminded me to be present, get into the present moment. Now, eventually, I started looking at those cards, and they actually wore off in terms of their effectiveness. So then I talked again to Kirsten Johnson, and I don't know if you guys have signed up for the I'm All In Kirsten Johnson Facebook page. It's pretty good. It's for folks in recovery. It's very good, and I recommend it for people that are in recovery looking to kind of get to the next level. But she told me one day, she said, you know, eventually you're going to start losing the effectiveness of the cards, so use different color cards. So then I switched to pink cards. So anything that just reminded me that as I'm going through these daily things and I'm trying to retrain my brain, what I'm trying to do is get into the present moment and let go of the thinking. And what you'll find is once you're letting go of this thinking, you'll have spaces where you're not thinking. And you'll actually be looking at a tree or looking at a lake, and you'll actually just be enjoying it, and you'll smile. Music will be louder and clearer. Colors will be more bold and bright. It's an amazing phenomenon. And what's happening, people, is your brain's changing. Literally. I kid you not. I'm living proof. So the third thing, like I said, is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When I'm sitting around and I find my mind drifting, I try to pull myself into the present by looking for 5 things I can see, 4 things that I can touch, 3 things that I can smell, 2 things that I can, 3 things that I can hear, 2 things that I can smell, and 1 thing that I can taste. So I'll literally be sitting there as I begin to get uncomfortable or my mind starts to attach to the negative thinking, and I'll stop and say, you know, 5 things I can see: coffee cup, glass, window, lake, tree. 4 things that I can touch. This is my cup. I feel it. I feel the cardboard. Feel the cardboard. This sounds, I know it sounds weird. Feel it. That's the cardboard. This is your brain locking into being in the moment, and when you're in the moment, the anxiety can't touch you. I hope I'm making that clear. But 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, really, really effective. Right down to number 1, tasting, right? 5 things I can see, 4 things I can touch, 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, 1 thing I can taste. Oh, coffee. How does it taste? It's got some vanilla. You know, it's got a little bit of sugar in it. I can taste the cream. You know, these are tricks to keep you in the present moment, which is the biggest way to defeat anxiety and depression in my opinion and in my personal experience. Last thing is, when you wake up in the morning, feel the feelings. You know, I wake up with high cortisol and high adrenaline in the morning, and so it's important for me to lay there before I get out of bed for 5 minutes and feel. You know, feel your legs are a little shaky. You're restless. Your chest is a little tight. You're a little bit anxious in the head. And I actually dip down and I actually feel those sensations. Literally feel them. This is work. This is hard work. Literally feel the sensations as they drop into my body. Feel my tightness in my chest. Feel my legs. Feel the tightness in my head. And I just try to feel it, engage it, befriend it, and know it's not going to hurt me. And when I approach it and embrace it, it dissipates. When I fight it, and why are my legs shaking? Why I can't get to sleep? It's 2:30 in the morning. I've only got 4 more hours of sleep. I can't fall back to sleep. When I fight, it gets worse. When I embrace and feel it, feel the feelings, it goes away. And over time, it begins to dissipate. So the one thing I'll tell you about these 4 tips is it doesn't work overnight, and you'll get frustrated. And you'll feel like you're not making progress. It took me a good 18 months of constantly practicing these 4 things, right? Breathing and counting. Anchor points, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, laying in bed before you get up for 5-10 minutes to feel the feelings, sensations, and buzzes in your body. Over time, you will find your anxiety begin to dissipate and relieve. And now I would say my anxiety is probably down, and I have bad days like everybody else still, but on balance, my anxiety is down probably 75% from where it was when I was really struggling and really suffering and really stuck on the gas brake pedal, constant anxiety 24/7 that was exhausting and was driving me crazy. So hopefully this is helpful. 4 tips on overcoming anxiety. I'm Phil Eichinger. I appreciate your comments, and hopefully you get something out of the video. Thanks.